Have you been tied to your phone for hours and then felt bad about it? You're watching this when you're working to conquer your addictions and regain your motivation. Let's just get to it. We exist in an environment built to trigger our emotions. Every food product, commercial and social media post is built to give us a brief rush of gratification, accompanied by emptiness and a longing for more. Big corporations are able to exploit our cravings to make trillions of money to keep us hooked. If you don't have a roadmap for yourself, you'll be at the hands of corporations that can act on your urges and rule you like a puppet. You would surrender your free will to achieve pleasure in a labyrinth built to keep you lost. Studies suggest that some people use their smartphones for about 5 hours a day. It's around 1,830 hours per single year. Luckily, there is a way to recover hold over your impulses and take back your strength by a procedure called dopamine fasting. What do you say? Well, first of all, we need to grasp dopamine. Dopamine is a brain chemical that is associated with lust. According to the author of Habits of a Happy Brain, dopamine is activated by new incentives. That's why you have great happiness with the first bite of a cake. 10 bites later, your mind is roaming. You're beginning to dream about the next thing on the list and the next thing. You really enjoy the cake, but you don't feel as much because your brain doesn't see it as fresh knowledge. Your subconscious is looking for the next perfect way to fulfill your needs. However, with video games and porn pages and social media, the brain still has the next thing to get pumped about because they're built to induce continuous release of dopamine. I'm sure you're familiar with the sensation that you want to make a productive day only to look up at the end of the day and remember that you've wasted 4 hours browsing through Instagram and checking out the notification. You're losing time, feeling bad for yourself, and stuff that used to excite you don't get you happy anymore. They used to do it. This is where dopamine fasting comes in. Dopamine fasting is the theory that if you stop dopamine-inducing behavior for prolonged periods of time, you'll be able to reboot your brain and let go of addictive habits that adversely affect your life. It's widely misunderstood to decrease dopamine, but it's not accurate that dopamine is required to work as a safe human being. Dopamine fasting exploded in interest in October 2018 and attracted still more interest a year later after Dr. Cameron Seppa released an article on the Medium titled Dopamine Fasting Final Guide 2.0 on the hot Silicon Valley trend. Dopamine 2.0 is best described. It's focused on cognitive behavioral treatment. It's about minimizing impulsive behavior, not reducing dopamine itself, because it doesn't allow you to behave like a full-blown monk that refrains from any types of gratification. Because the research behind dopamine fasting 2.0, as stated before, it's based on cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. CBT is evidence-based procedure and prescribed by thousands of people. Ringtone: you pick up the phone and press to open the message. That the ringtone is a stimulus and opening the message is the action. Here are 2 ways. Number 1, to eliminate the stimulus by placing your phone in another room or removing alerts or engaging in an operation that is not consistent with reading your phone, like swimming. Another solution is exposure and reaction. Preventive or ERP. For instance, you see an attractive girl on Instagram that you fill in. Your heart rate spikes and your body tingles such that you sprint to your bedroom, jump under the covers and masturbate. Into a profound feeling of guilt and worthlessness sinks in. By applying ERP, you can always look at pretty girls on Instagram but refrain from masturbating. I know it's hard, but you can use a strategy called emergency surfing, which is simply mindful for a few minutes of bribing. If by fasting dopamine you mean dropping dopamine levels, the response is no, but if you mean fasting dopamine 2.0 based on CBT like we just heard, then yes. A review of 106 trials concluded that in general the evidence base of CBT is quite high, but how fasting dopamine helps recover the drive, while sharp or sustained rises in dopamine levels can minimize it. The number of dopamine receptors in your brain. Dopamine fasting can help increase the number of receptors you have through a process called modulation. The more dopamine receptors you have, the fewer dopamine receptors you have. Stimuli can take the same amount of pleasure if you don't eat added sugar for a month. A single blueberry will give you the same amount of pleasure as your beloved ice cream. So how do you dopamine? There are 2 easy steps. Step 1: recognize habits that cause you anxiety or addictiveness. 6 typical impulsive behaviors include emotive eating, the internet and gaming, gambling and shopping, curiosity and fun seeking for recreation, drugs and porn, and masturbation. Step 2: adopt the dopamine fasting schedule. For example, let's say you want to minimize the amount of time you waste on your phone watching, because I'm sharing some ideas that could make it easier for you to conquer your addictions. But let's talk about eliminating the ritual and incentive. Imagine that you have a bad habit of going to the cafeteria every day to buy a Coke every time you drink a Coke. After that, you feel guilty and you end up losing weight, so you try to do dopamine immediately instead of drinking Coke all day. You just try to drink a Coke every 2 days. But you find this challenging according to the Charles Higgs book, The Power of Habit. Here's something you should do instead. Number 1: to identify the behavior. The behavior is the action, in this case that's going up to the cafeteria to buy a Coke and drink it. Second: to identify the reward, your desire. The craving drives our behavior and incentives are what satisfied a craving. Then remind yourself why you were changing to Coke at the cafeteria. Are you thirsty? Would you want a heavy sugar? A moment to walk away from your job? Are you looking for social contact at the cafeteria? Then experiment for 4 or 5 different prizes one day. You might drink a glass of water if you had lost your craving after 15 minutes, so you might have been thirsty but got into the bad habit of drinking a Coke instead. You could go for a stroll another day and call a friend if the craving had subsided after 15 minutes. Then it may be that you've only been ready for social contact. You try to write down how you feel after each different thing. For a period of days or weeks, search for trends and see which reward you really desire. Let's presume you're finding that the reward is the high sugar you get from drinking Coke. The next move is to identify the cause. At the time of the day, what causes your craving for high sugar? Is it watching someone else drink that sort of Coke? Is there a video commercial for YouTube? Is it because you ate something? It can be difficult to classify the cause, but luckily science teaches us that causes typically fall into 5 groups. Their place, time and emotional state, other people or people. Previous intervention immediately. Let's presume you find that the stimulus is time-based, so it still appears to happen about 3 p.m. every day no matter what. How you felt about it, where you are. When you've recognized the reward for action and cause, you're likely to experience a sense of empowerment that can alter your behaviors. The final step, though, is to make a schedule. When it was 3 p.m., come around here. Consciously pick a positive activity that gives you the satisfaction you seek. In our case, high sugar makes a deliberate decision to go to the nearest juice bar to get your favorite organic juice instead of a Coke at home. Thank you for being with us to the end. You can be anywhere in the world now and you chose to stay with us. We truly appreciate it.